I'm convinced that comedy is rhythm. It's all rhythm. It's more akin to poetry and music than anything else. And if you don't believe it's rhythm, if you believe comedy is something that's more intellectual and received intellectually, then I would give you this test, which is watch a stand-up comic tell a joke, like a George Carlin or a Richard Pryor, and they have this big build-up. And then when they hit the punchline, they miss a word. But then they restate the word. Joke's ruined. Well, it shouldn't be ruined because it's just, he's going to be still giving you the idea. You got it a quarter of a second later, but no, it's ruined. So what's that like? Well, that would be like a guy playing the piano who misses the final note. Even if he hits the right note after, it's ruined. That's what it is. That, to me, proves it is rhythm.
Comedy is about language, the power of the spoken word, but I think the spoken element can be underappreciated. Words are just a small part of what makes comedy work. Instead, the space between the words makes a joke come to life, and how the words are phrased, twisted, whispered, or yelled. What we'll explore today is something I've long been puzzled by. What if comedy isn't just about writing jokes, but music? What if comedy isn't about words, but rhythm?
Harold! Shrek!
Fiona!
Mom! Harold!
Donkey!
Let's say this off the bat, rhythm is a pretty hard thing to put your finger on. It's more something you just kind of feel. You'll see it in certain films, the way Aaron Sorkin's dialogue flies off the page, or Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel follows its own internal drumbeat.
Are you Monsieur Gustav of the Grand Budapest Hotel in Nebelsbad? Uh-huh. Get on the next cable car.
Melody is in the air, but how can we break this down? Well, according to the mountain of videos I've watched on public speaking, rhythm can be attributed to 4 basic things. So without further ado, welcome to...
I'm having a gooseberry and cinnamon yogurt. Who wants a gooseberry and cinnamon yogurt? Chloe, would you like a gooseberry and cinnamon yogurt?
Yes, please.
One of the things that you want to think about is how long are your sentences lasting? So it's very, very predictable for people to fall into a line where this is what their phrasing will look like. This is how I phrase things. It's usually about this long. Here comes my next sentence. And here is another sentence. All of these phrases are of equal length. They're all going into about the same amount of measures. And after a time, that becomes so monotonous, it's like house music where the beat is just constant and people will tune out.
There's a great quote by Gary Provost where he talks about the monotony of speaking in the same length sentences. You wouldn't think this applies to comedy, but if you're as bored and lonely as me, when you write down a joke, you can see how much good comedians are chopping and changing their sentence structure. Take this joke from Lewis Black. There's so much variety, it keeps you hooked the whole way through.
From the beginning of time, man has looked at the heavens and firmly believed that the universe ends out in space. It's not true. The end of the universe happens to be in the United States. I have seen it. And, oddly enough, it's in Houston, Texas. I know, I was shocked too. I left the comedy club there and walked down the street. On one corner, there was a Starbucks. And across the street from that Starbucks, in the exact same building as that Starbucks, was a Starbucks. At first, I thought the sun was playing tricks with my eyes. But no, there was a Starbucks across from a Starbucks. And that, my friends, is the end of the universe. People have said to me, how do you know? And I say, go there. Stand between those 2 Starbucks, look at your watch. Time stands still.
This is really intelligently written. Black knows exactly where to contrast the long sentences with the short, and the long sentences have a clear purpose. This is by far the longest sentence in the joke, but it doesn't meander. Instead, its length is used to show Black's rising anger. He takes pauses throughout the sentence, breaking it up, and the continual repetition of the word Starbucks, with more repressed, aggressive emphasis each time, builds momentum going into the final part of the joke. The last few sentences...
Stand between those 2 Starbucks, look at your watch. Time stands still.
Each get progressively shorter, going from 5 to 4 to 3 words. He even breaks the final sentence up into each individual word, really emphasizing each one. It's incredibly satisfying to listen to. There's an almost Shakespearean quality to the joke, and hearing it come to a close so deliberately, with Black dwelling on each word like a wise sage contemplating the end of human civilization, is just mwah.
Perfect.
Okay, let's move on.
I thought you were in love with your brother Ryan, right? What's Ryan think about all this?
Ryan's dead.
Oh, really?
To me.
He's dead!
Pitch. Comedians are constantly changing the pitch of their voice. The key is variety. A similar vocal delivery is not only tedious, but can quickly become annoying.
I use this same voice over and over again. I use this same voice over and over again.
So comedians will change the volume, pitch, and intensity of their delivery.
I went to a music festival recently, not bragging, but I had a great time because I found out I'm officially too damn old to be at a music festival. And I was not expecting to find that out. Here's how you know you're too old to be at a music festival. If you walk around just going, forget this, where do I sit? That's how you know.
You can be pretty dramatic. Sudden shifts in tone and volume take the audience by surprise.
Everybody agrees and you move on. Man, that guy can paint some fruit. That looked just like an apple.
We were sitting here, weren't we?
Yes, we were sitting right there.
Well, you ain't sitting here now, motherfucker.
John, you're a very good actor.
Thank you, I know that.
Yes.
Take your goddamn hands off my son! See, it's easy, it's pretend.
Perfect.
Lee Mack repeats the same pitch.
I see her. I want her. She is what she is. She sees, but she's blind.
So it's even funnier when he does this.
Shalimar by Gulam.
What are you on about? What does it fucking smell like?
And when you change your pitch, your delivery becomes musical and surprising.
So think about variety in your pitch too, sometimes hitting that word that's the higher pitch in the middle, sometimes at the beginning.
The first thing on my list, the first thing I do before I go to bed is I empty the dog. Now you might call it walking the dog, but it's pretty functional at that time of night. I empty the dog. Then I check the cats. We've got 2 house cats. I check that they're all right. And then if we've had it on, I'll turn the heating down. Then I check that the conservatory doors that have never been open are closed. And I do that twice.
Next up.
Bring the table to the window.
Yes, Monsieur Gustave.
Bring the tray to the table.
Right away, Mr. Gustave.
Right there.
So if you ever record yourself speaking, go back and just start snapping to the beat. So right now, my phrasing is happening about this tempo. But sometimes maybe I should just go ahead and speed that tempo up. And if I am feeling a little bit more serious, then I might go ahead and slow that tempo down.
This is an easy one. Saying things fast.
Mousetrap. Who remembers that? Do you remember Mousetrap, where you wound the crank and it turned the gears and pushed the rod with a stop sign on the end against the boot that kicked the bucket with the metal ball that rolled down the rickety staircase, round the drain pipe, hit the lever with the hand on the top into the tub, it fell through the hole on the end onto the diving board, flicked the diver onto the tub, released the cage on top of the little mouse.
Or slow.
What did the ear of corn say?
Not that slow. Comedians like Anthony Jeselnik or Stephen Wright are known for their murderously slow delivery.
Thanks.
But even they are often mixing up their pace. Listen to how Stephen Wright varies his cadence to make this joke flow.
Lots of my friends have babies, but I don't have any babies, but I have lots of friends. Babies don't have any friends. They all have those baby monitors so they can hear the baby from the other room, which I consider a form of wiretapping.
Mixing things up is where a lot of humour can be found. Some jokes build slowly before finishing in a crescendo of rapid-fire rage.
Because I'll change the tyre. I said you can't, because tyre is part of taxi, so you must throw taxi away!
Aisling Bea, in keeping with her Irish roots, changes her pace and pitch to create these hilarious, unpredictable vocal harmonies.
I mean, Powell, I say I broke up with him, but actually he broke up with me. But again, that's just language. It doesn't matter, you know, it's just syntax, structure. It's just English. It doesn't matter what way you say it. I broke up with him. It doesn't matter. I say potato. He says, you've got a really good heart, but your personality's a bit much. Tato. So it doesn't matter.
Sometimes a steady beat gives a joke its humour. Listen to this sketch from Come Fly With Me. The beat is totally constant, which makes it even funnier as things go wrong.
Fries?
Fries.
Fries.
What size fries?
What fries size?
What fries?
Small.
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 Press small then.
Press small then. Strawberry milkshake.
They're also perfectly copying each other's cadence. The constant tempo provides a clear rhythm for this echo chamber of stupidity.
Can I have the code for the toilet, please?
Can I have the code for the toilet, please?
Can I have the code for the toilet, please?
295.
245.
361.
And finally,
people think they're going to compete well because they've said more words than somebody else. And that's not true. You want more words to be heard, not said.
this is a comedian's bread and butter. A good comedian knows that a pause, even for a fraction of a second, can give a joke a massive impact.
Peter, are you a fan of word games?
Well, to be honest, Jimmy, I don't think that's any of your business.
Pauses allow the audience to engage in the dialogue the comedian is creating. They provide moments for the audience to breathe and respond.
I was in the shower last week. I jumped in the shower. He jumped in with me. I was like, are we in prison? Like, why are you here right now? Can you leave? This is where I cry.
They also create tension. Like an inhale of breath, a well-timed pause can hook the audience into a sentence and emphasize the words that are then said.
I've just panicked and wanted to be a different person so badly that I've just freaked out and like cut myself a fringe. I know I should say fringe so much faster than I just really love the drama of it.
Regular pauses can create a charged atmosphere that comedians like Michael Redmond or Joe Pera use to their advantage.
Hello.
Sometimes periods of total silence work in a comedian's favour. Quiet points give the audience's ear a break and make a great contrast to a series of quick-fire jokes.
Hey James, what you got in that tin over there? What's in the tin, mate?
Everything I'd done until that point in the routine had been quite fast.
Yes.
I'm talking quite quickly, I'm making sure, because I've got to get a lot of details in there, but I want to get to each joke, each punchline. And then by that time where I say about stirring the custard, the audience are ready for a slow burn again. They're like, let us tap out for a bit. And so you kind of get to do a slow bit, and they allow you that. And I found the longer that I did that bit for, the better it would go, because they're like, oh, we now can't predict this.
Yeah.
Wanna lick? Psych. You want some ice cream? You want some ice cream? I'm going to eat all of my ice cream. You cannot have some. You can't.
As with all these techniques, you want variety. Finding a balance between silence and noise, loud and quiet, is essential to keeping the audience's ear engaged.
So when you're preparing your stuff, go through and watch yourself. How is your phrasing? Is it ever varied? Think about your pacing. Do you ever slow down? Do you ever speed up? Is your pitch always predictable? Or are you doing that with variety? And then where are you pausing? And if you put those things in, your voice, your tone, your inflection is going to go through the roof. You'll be much more musical.
Take Ali Wong, who is one of the most musical comedians alive. Her flow is amazing. She'll take big breaks between jokes, staring down the audience like some leopard-printed puma, before punctuating the air with a blast of staccato syllables. Her delivery is like machine gun fire. It's harsh and crunchy, digging into the consonant sounds. She changes her delivery almost for every sentence. Listen to how her pitch, pace, and cadence change over the course of this 40-second joke.
Breastfeeding is brutal. It is chronic physical torture. I thought it was supposed to be this beautiful bonding ceremony where I would feel like I was sitting on a lily pad in a meadow and bunnies would gather at my feet while the fat Hawaiian man version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow would play. No! It's not like that at all. Breastfeeding is this savage ritual that just reminds you that your body is a cafeteria now.
I mean, look at this. There's so much variation. Sudden U-turns from yelling to whispering. Her delivery is musical, and not just in the literal singing, but in short snippets where there's a clear internal melody.
Where I would feel like I was sitting on a lily pad in a meadow, and bunnies would gather at my feet.
This is where these handy tips and techniques kind of become redundant and useless. If you think you can jump on stage and perform like this just because I've given you a few sweet tips, and they are sweet, you can't. You're gonna sound fake or forced or over-rehearsed, like a spasmodic robot that hasn't quite figured out the basics of human interaction.
What I would prefer is a process that transforms you so the tips take place automatically. I mean, for instance, very often a tip is given when you're speaking to a crowd. Vary the pace of your speech, vary the volume. Well, those are two good things, but if they happen mechanically, it gets to be kind of boring. At this point, leave where you're standing and walk over there and take a pause. Well, maybe that makes sense in terms of how it's written, but it doesn't necessarily make sense in terms of how you're talking and relating to the people you're talking with. That relating to them should be the source of a pause.
Hello, I'm Zed, prototype of the ZX line and the future of stand-up comedy. Well, what kind of audience do we have here this evening? Anyone on a first date? Good!
So there's a dynamic relationship between us that leads to a change in pace, to a change in volume, and that kind of thing. A tip is just an intellectualization of that, which might be okay to give somebody once they've got the grounding in the ability to connect. But it ought to come out of the connection. It shouldn't be a checkbox that you tick off.
Smithers, it's out of control.
Take him out, sir.
Point being, what Wong is doing is so beyond what can be taught. And even though we can identify the basic ingredients, her delivery is so much more complicated than this. These changes to her delivery are not mechanical but instinctive and emotional. She's flowing with the rhythm of the joke.
Please accept my condolences!
Okay, to find out more about this, I sat down with Rhythms of Comedy maestro and all-around good egg, Josh Harmon.
Hey, here we go.
His channel, Rhythms of Comedy, where he drums to comedians' jokes, is not only incredibly entertaining, but also exposes the underlying rhythms of how comedians talk.
The way I think about rhythm and comedy or public speaking, oration, anything like that, the rhythm is, it's not a piece of the pie, it's a layer of the pie. It's like whipped cream or something, or maybe it's the crust of the pie. Or it's the, maybe it's the filling of the pie. But it is like, it's not like, oh, if you have all the nice ingredients and you can add a little bit of rhythm, make it better. It's intrinsic to the flavor of the whole thing.
As Josh describes, any good comedian knows that a great joke isn't carried by its words, but its melody, something he finds it hard to get away from.
What's interesting, now that I've done quite a lot of these, it's become intuitive in a way that's a blessing and a curse, where sometimes I'm now hearing rhythms and just when I'm having conversation and it like pulls me out of being present in the conversation, which is not always terrific. But what I've found actually is that every joke that's funny has an interesting rhythm to it. Even if you don't hear it right away, when you dig into it, you're like, oh, you know what? That is actually kind of interesting. This is maybe why it works.
Josh is not alone in thinking this. There has long been a comparison between music and comedy.
Comedians and musicians were like this. Every comic wants to be a musician. Every musician thinks they're funny.
You can see signs of it everywhere. The Seinfeld theme was changed every episode depending on the rhythm of Jerry's delivery. Josh said himself there's a long tradition of comedians who play drums, like Jon Stewart, Fred Astaire, and Johnny Carson. Let's not forget Billy Burr.
But most of the timing is very rhythmic. I mean, I think you'll find a lot of ex-drummer comedians, and a lot of comedians that think they could be drummers. I always thought I could.
Every comedian has a sense of timing and finds a rhythm that works for them. It's hard to describe, but when a comedian is in full swing, you can feel a rhythm, almost like there's a kick drum in their brain giving their jokes a melody.
I think about comedy and rhythm, at least that's how I write. I don't sit down at a paper or a computer to write. I listen to myself in the shower and I feel, I don't know, maybe not melodious, but I feel rhythm. That's what's so fascinating about people like Chris Rock, where there's just this musical kind of like rhythmic drum beat where the pacing keeps a certain time. He paces a lot and he yanks the mic cord on a certain kind of beat. He speaks in refrains. There's a lot of repetition of certain phrases, you know?
But I got nothing against the strippers. What I got a problem with is the stripper myth. You know the stripper myth. This is stripper myth that's being perpetuated throughout society. The stripper myth is, I'm stripping to pay my tuition. No, you're not. There's no strippers in college. There's no clear heels in biology. Shit, man. I didn't know they had a college that only took $1 bills.
This is reinforced by a number of comedic rappers and musical comedians. Doc Brown got his start rapping about tea.
You chose the wrong brother's cuppa to mess with. Now go get me your mother digestive.
But listen to how he integrates the same sense of rhythm into his comedy, segueing between stand-up and spoken word.
I just think, what do you know? What do you young people know about this shit? What do you know? You know, what do you know about having a pair of trainers specifically for garden use? What do you know? What do you know about back pain? What do you know about receding hairlines and chilblains? What do you know about the 80s? When the coolest thing you could say was, baby, page me.
Comedian/rapper Jordan Temple even spoke of the similarities between writing for the two.
The way I look at certain subjects and topics as I would a rapper, I look at the same as comedy. Even just writing in a kind of short, almost iambic pentametered kind of way, and splitting up certain lines so that they kind of match the next line, or shorter or longer. The punch word needs to be shorter than the sentence you just wrote, and I feel like that approach is very similar. Recently found out that Amazon is bulldozing a building I told a girl I love her in as a teenager to make room for their new headquarters. Yeah, so their foundation will literally be built on a lie. Yep. Yeah. I never loved you, Kendra. I love free shipping.
Hannibal Buress is a perfect guy to focus on because he's dabbled in both. He's a long-time rap and hip-hop fan and featured on Open Mike Eagle's Dark Comedy in 2014.
You ain't a thug, stop acting like you been through shit. Stop paying for them porn site memberships. Go to YouPorn, nigga, that shit is free. But don't bootleg my comedy, pay the fee.
As Jason Zinnemann notes, what makes Mr. Burris such an exciting talent is less his material than his distinctive delivery, which manages to sound laid back and propulsive at the same time. His jokes mosey to the punchline, veering between a sleepy drawl and preposterous defiance. At the same time, he doesn't settle into a familiar rhythm, his tone and emphasis as unpredictable as a monologue by Christopher Walken.
I was sitting outside the Fat Burger on West 3rd.
But like you're changing your cadence a lot. We talked about that. You were yelling and flipping out. And it's so jarring, like back in the Kick a Pigeon day, like early Hannibal, like the thing was that it was like this low rumble, you know what I mean?
I got weird aspirations. Like, I want to kick a pigeon. Because pigeons walk around like they're invincible, you know? And I'm like, you're not invincible, I will kick the shit out of you. You're not waiting for the bus because you can fly.
Very cool. And now you've lured us all into your home with that cool rumble, and now you're freaking out a little bit, and everybody loses their minds. They love it.
I guess I used to not really change that much in tone, and it's just, for some bits, you have to.
I went into this restaurant in New Orleans called Coops. Went into the bathroom, huge rat in the bathroom of Coops. Rat looked at me like, what are you doing here? That was his vibe. It was very negative.
It's funny that for a comedian with such a musical background, Burris may be using a rap technique known as triplet flow to get into the rhythm of his jokes.
Triplet, that's something that's popular in hip hop. So triplet is a subdivision of rhythm. So if you have your basic pulse, like 1, 2, 3, 4 in a song, triplet, you divide each pulse into 3. Like triple lit, triple lit, triple lit, triple lit, da 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 da.
I pull up in Rarers and shit, with choppers and Harleys and shit. For real.
I'm young and rich and plus I'm bougie. I'm not stupid, so I keep the Uzi.
Purple and yellow on Missy. I need my answers to miss me.
Been on the macho like Randy. The chopper go out to for granted.
And I felt like I was hearing some of that in his delivery.
I have a situation in my apartment right now. I have a surplus of pickle juice in my apartment. Too much pickle juice, because after the pickles are gone, I don't like throwing out the pickle juice. It just feels wasteful. So lately I've been dipping my fingers in the pickle juice, and then I flick it on my sandwiches for flavor.
Yeah, so it's that part.
Yeah.
So here's the basic pulse of like how he's talking. He's like, too much pickle juice. Now after the pickles are gone, after the da-da-da-da, right, triplet. And then he goes to what's called a quarter note triplet. So it's like, too much pickle juice after the pickle's gone. I don't like throwing out the pickle juice. It's like a little bit da-da-da.
After the pickles are gone, I don't like throwing out the pickle juice.
It's just he's switching those subdivisions, but keeping it kind of round as opposed to like a even like duple pulse, which would be 2 or 4 divisions of the beat. Gives it kind of like just like a round, sort of flowing kind of thing. It's just a little bit looser as opposed to more the militaristic thing would be like, I have a situation in my apartment right now. There's too much pickle juice. There's too much pickle juice in my apartment and I don't know what to do. Like, he's like, I got a situation in my apartment right now. There's too much pickle juice. He's just like really flowing with it. And that's what I was getting at.
You can almost bop your head along to the beat as Burris delivers it. It's kind of crazy and shows the difference between a comedian and a musician being in flow are not that far apart.
I want to do that punchline again. Dance that shit right. That's very exciting. Y'all should try comedy. This is one of the benefits of it.
I mean, he would not be breaking it down the way that you're breaking it down, but he is clearly writing and performing this joke in a way that intuitively feels good. Intuitively is coming out of his brain with this kind of energy, and he's winning the audience over with the rhythm of the joke. Yeah, I've got no question there.
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm here. You pretty much understand it.
Like, how many flicks does it take to properly flavor a ham sandwich? Between 7 and 11, depending on how big your fingers are and how long you leave them immersed in the pickle juice.
There's lots of variables. I studied this.
What I was attempting to say there is that a good comedian has an instinct for rhythm. Whether it's when they're writing or performing a joke, they will intuitively look for melodies and rhythms within it.
There's parallels to comedy, I think, because in comedy, you can write things, but sometimes when you're on stage, there's a path that just like opens up and you know that this is the way to do it. It's different than the way you wrote it.
Yeah.
Because the audience is there and you feel it, because
Yeah.
you only feel it when you're performing. And until you have an audience, you don't have any idea how the bit really comes together.
Good point there, Joe. Brian Regan has an old quote.
Stand-ups are like musicians, but they play the audience. Does that sound familiar?
And it rings true here. Comedy is often less about getting the audience to laugh as it is telling them where to. A comedian's delivery is not a solo but a duet that both anticipates and flows with the responses of the audience. Take Sebastian Maniscalco, whose rhythmic delivery is not only pleasing to the ear, but clearly signals where the audience should be laughing.
Ever hear how people refer to their grandparents? Oh, this is my Meemaw and my Peepaw. What? This is my Pee-Pee and my Poo-Poo. Guy's 95 years old. He fought in World War II. Stormed the beach at Normandy. Now his name is Pee-Pee. What are you doing to the man?
But with that joke in particular, he's using parallel rhythmic structure to enhance the meaning of the joke.
What the hell is he talking about? Parallel rhythmic structure is when a rhythmic pattern is repeated for effect. It's rooted in poetry, where lines of a similar length and structure gave a piece of prose a sense of rhythm and balance. It adds musicality to a joke, like a motif in a piece of music. Cat Williams has mastered this, he's not even subtle about it.
Now the first thing I need you to understand is the Xbox is $199.99. Now Daddy can do this all day, every day, no problem. But I need you to understand it only comes with one controller. That means Daddy can't play with you, your friends can't play with you, it's just you. That means I gotta buy another controller at $34.95. Now Daddy can do this all day, every day, no problem. But I need you to understand it only come with 2 demo games. You gonna be through with them motherfuckers tonight. That means I got to buy 4 or 5 other games at $45 to $55 a piece. Now, Daddy can do this all day, every day, no problem. Or I can look in the newspaper under the classified section and I can get you what's known as a Nintendo 64.
Note how the repeated rhythm breaks the joke into segments. Each repetition leads him into the next point he's going to make. This gives the joke structure and tunes us into his delivery. It also gives the joke a pleasing melody, the continual repetition of
Now Daddy can do this all day, every day, no problem.
Becomes the rhythm of the joke. It's like the bass line of a song that provides the core tempo that the rest of the joke is played off. More than anything, it's fun to listen to and gives the joke a kind of exciting pulse. Now, the words don't have to be the same. Listen to how Mark Normand uses the same rhythmic pattern to reinforce the punchline.
Everything's a lie when you're drunk, you know? You're like, hey, it's the best night ever. These are my good friends, and she's super hot. Then you wake up like, it's a waste of time. I spent too much money, and that's a dude.
As with anything, it's hard to tell what exactly makes it funny. Maybe because it's surprising to hear comedians talk in such a rhythmically precise way. Or maybe our lizard brains are instinctively attuned to rhythm, and hearing these repeated patterns triggers a laughter response within us. Okay, sorry, got distracted. That's enough of my witterings. Back to Sebastian Maniscalco. Parallel rhythmic structure. Cool.
You ever hear how people refer to their grandparents? Right? You know, he sets like the opening phrase, and then he does 2 back-to-back parallel rhythms. This is my Mima and my Peepa. What? This is my Peep and my Poo-Poo. Huh? Like it's the same structure, same rhythm, same amount of syllables. It's like funny the first time, but then the second time when it's the same and it reinforces that rhythm, that is what makes it really funny. That's what makes it a great delivery of the joke.
You ever hear how people refer to their grandparents? Oh, this is my Meemaw and my Peepaw. What? This is my Pee-Pee and my Poo-Poo.
And then when he goes to I guess what you could call the B section of the joke. The guy's 95 years old. He fought in World War II. He's now brought it up to like another gear. It's like a little bit faster, where if the first part of the joke is kind of in triplet, like da 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 da, the second part goes to a 16th note, like da 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 da. Like it's just a little bit more intense rhythmically, and that's like, oh, okay, we're really getting going here. It's like adding another log onto the fire.
Guy's 95 years old. He fought in World War II. Stormed the beach at Normandy.
Until he finally then slows down a lot at the end. Like, what are you doing to the guy? Like the end is, he really draws out those syllables that like marks kind of the end of the joke, kind of like the big crash finish. Kind of like, end of a big rock song, they hold out the last note. That's how I would imagine that.
Now his name is Pee-Pee. What are you doing to the man? Have some respect.
Something that you would have heard a few times already is this idea of flow. It's massively important. In the same way a rapper needs to feel in sync with the beat, a comedian needs to be flowing with the rhythm of a joke.
Yeah. What is the flow? It's just you know the flow very well. You've told jokes and you've stood on stage, so many times, and you just know when you're in the rhythm.
There's a great article by a guy called Drew Landry. Landry, comparing comedy with rap music. When Jay talks about Snoop Dogg's impossibly smooth delivery, or the way Eminem rides a beat to where his words are a layer of percussion, the parallels between comedy and rap become obvious.
You can have a great voice, right? And you can just almost say anything. I think Snoop Dogg has a great voice. Like he can say 1, 2, 3, and to the 4. It's like, oh my God. It just sounds good, right? It just sounds really good. Or you can be someone, like Eminem and just have amazing cadence. And it's like almost like the syncopation. And like, I sit back with this act, because zigzag, and this back, and this act, and this Z. And, you almost become this percussion, inside the music.
Longtime collaborator Rick Rubin described how Jay-Z would change his cadence to make a verse flow. Doesn't it sound oddly familiar to how a comedian will adjust the timing and pace of a joke to make a punchline hit in just the right way?
The words will be the same, but the phrasing will be different. So it's more like an improvisational solo. If you have a melody, you could play the same melody, putting emphasis on different parts of it. So he does it, it's not the same. The words are the same, or close to the same, but the feeling of it and the rhythm of it changes.
I mean, how does this lyric from 444 have any less the swagger or superb throwaway timing than a joke by Pryor or Chappelle?
OJ like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay.
And speaking of amazing cadence,
I like an escalator, man, because an escalator can never break. It can only become stairs. All right. There would never be an escalator temporarily out of order sign. Only an escalator temporarily stairs. Sorry for the convenience.
As Landry continues, an economy of words is crucial in a language-based art form. When rapping, one extra word can seemingly jumble up a whole bar, and one extra syllable can create a choppy flow that stains a verse. When Mitch Hedberg drops a Hedbergian one-liner like,
I used to do drugs, I still do, but I used to too.
It's the perfect amount of words. Any extra word would make that joke a tiny bit less funny. I would argue this joke is not only the perfect number of words, but syllables. Listen to how he says used to too.
I used to do drugs, I still do, but I used to too.
If he said, I used to do drugs, I still do, but I used to too, it would suddenly become clunky, it loses its flow. But by skipping over to and saying used to, I can't even do it. I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to. Used to. Can you hear it? Used to. Can you hear it? It's so precise. It's exactly the same as a rapper condensing syllables and shortening words to get in the flow of a beat.
That's a great fucking joke. There is zero fat on that. You need every word of that joke. You take one word out, it doesn't work. Perfect joke.
As Landry concludes, when words are your only currency, you need to be meticulous with how you are spending them. The best MCs and best comics are hyper aware of this, a trait that, in part, makes them masters at their craft. And without a smoother segue, we will now clunkily go to one of the greatest of all time.
Do you Seinfeld?
Nick, that's
Do you
not...
Seinfeld?
What's the deal with bananas? I mean, they got orange juice, you got apple juice. Where's the banana juice?
I never thought of that. Because you got orange juice.
Regardless of your feelings towards Seinfeld, you've got to recognize his talent. The dude is a machine. He treats jokes as a science and is a notorious tinkerer.
I've seen interviews with him where he talks about wanting to shave syllables off of jokes, and he said he spends an hour getting an 8-word sentence down to 5 words just to get it in line with the rhythm.
So now I'm looking for the connective tissue that gives me the really tight, smooth link, like a jigsaw puzzle link. And if it's too long, if it's just a split second too long, you will shave letters off of words. You count syllables, to get it just, it's more like songwriting.
That interview is actually what really inspired me to start making the videos. That exact quote. That exact quote was the one. Because I was like, wow, that's wild.
Seinfeld's obsession with cutting things down borders on lunacy. I stumbled across a New York Times article where he compares his jokes to Japanese cricket cages. I would compare them to Netsuke, tiny Japanese sculptures which take weeks to perfect each minute detail. In the article, Seinfeld reflects on his own creative process. He discusses a joke he's been chiseling away at about marriage, obsessing for years over how to cut it down by just a couple syllables. I had a joke. I can't do Seinfeld. Okay. I had a joke. Marriage is a bit of a chess game, except the board is made of flowing water and the pieces are made of smoke. There's a little hitch. The board is made of flowing water. I'd always lose the audience there. Flowing water, what does that mean? And repeating made of was hurting things. Finally, the cricket cage snapped into place. Seinfeld traced a square in the air with his fingers, drawing the board. Now I can just say the board is flowing water and do this and they get it. So now I'm starting to get applause for it after years of work. They don't think about it, they just laugh.
So it's a bit of a chess game, isn't it? Except the board is flowing water. And all the chess pieces are made of smoke.
Now, it should be noted that this in part comes from a desire for efficiency, to cut down the waffle and minimize the distance between punchlines. But it also goes deeper than this. There's a melody in Jerry's head that he's trying to figure out. It's not quite flowing together.
Straight white man, I know the road look tougher, and the women want rights. The African American doesn't work with the rhythm.
It's a certain, music. It's music. And you have to know the music. I mean, once you get an audience going, you just ride it. It's like surfing, It just carries you along. Once you establish the rhythm of the audience, and you've got their timing and they've got your timing, that's it.
Seinfeld's use of rhythm is prominent throughout his jokes, which I always knew, but I was still blown away when I saw Josh's rendition of one of his jokes on the drums. It was suddenly so clear that the rhythm, not the words, were making the joke funny.
But then when you're doing it with the drums, you just go, oh, this is all pitch. All this is, it's just him going up, going down, and when the pause.
The question is this. What have I been doing? Everybody says to me, hey, you don't do the show anymore. What do you do? I'll tell you what I do. Nothing.
But the timing of it, the delay.
The rhythm of it, yes.
The delay.
The rhythm is 90% of that joke.
And how conceived is that? How mapped out is that? Or is it rehearsed?
Very mapped out. Very figured out.
Like if you took the words out of one of his jokes or out of Seinfeld's jokes, like it would still kind of be a little bit funny. Like Seinfeld, if you just hear someone go like, it's like still kind of funny, and it's just the sound, it's just the rhythm, like, it's not even really how he talks, but it's sort of just like the contour of it is still funny.
Have you seen these drawstring pants? Where am I going in these things? A clam bake? Slumber party? Should I volunteer at a hospital? Jerry, what are you talking about? I love the Gap. It's like going into your closet, except there's a guy in there. Hey, buddy, pocket tee? Really? Thanks, Gap. What? You'll refold it? This place is great.
He has the book that he just put out called Is This Anything? I mean, it's, Jerry, I love you, but it's barely a book.
Yeah.
But it's amazing too. It's just his jokes written out. You can see how he does it with the line breaks, and it's fascinating. But you read those jokes and they make you laugh, but it's a totally different thing from hearing him deliver it. Same thing like when you read Shakespeare. It's good, and you're like, wow, this is an amazing story. But then when you hear Shakespeare performed, you're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And you can like hear that like iambic pentameter and the whole thing going.
Yeah.
It just elevates it so much. And that's the rhythm.
Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand. Yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see.
Someone current who does that really well is Mark Normand.
Mm-hmm.
I had the pleasure of performing with. It was a really fun night.
I saw that video. It's so cool.
Yeah, that was a wild experience. It's completely improvised.
Yeah.
And really, really fun and challenging.
I'm in therapy, doing some therapy. Yeah. My therapist, he's doing this thing called exposure therapy. That's where you face your fears. Scared of heights, takes you a hot air balloon. Scared of drowning, takes you in the ocean. So he said, what are you scared of, Mark? I said, I'm claustrophobic and scared of intimacy. So he took me in a little closet and fucked me.
But a lot of his sets, he's kind of just sort of doing like a rhythm sort of sound type thing. You know, in between all his jokes, he's going like, all right, okay, all right. And he just got like all these filler type things that are just sort of floating him down the rhythm river a little bit.
All right, wow, woo, all right, all right, yeah, oh, yeah. All right, thanks a lot, I'm Kevin Hart, have a good night, everybody, thank you.
Do you think that stuff's just keeping him in beat? So it's just, if he said nothing, then it would be like this gaping, glaring hole. But by just going, yeah, all right, okay, it's just keeping him. It's keeping him.
Yeah, it's keeping him in the flow. I think so.
My brain is evil. It like attacks me. It's like a bully. You know? I'll be at a party, hanging out, everybody's having a good time, talking. My brain's like, hey, you weirdo, you're being too quiet. Everybody's wondering why you're such a quiet weirdo. Come on, get in there, say something, you lunatic. Come on, you freak, jump in, you psycho. Come on, get in there. You finally say something, your brain goes, woo, that's what you picked.
It's really not that much of a leap to say that when Jerry tells a joke, he's not so much relaying an idea as he is spitting a verse. And in the same way a flubbed bar in a rap battle would spell defeat, a mispronounced word or mistimed cue can cause a joke to crumble.
When you have a failing, unfortunately, it can be fatal. It's like you could tell the greatest joke, but if you just trip over one word on the punchline, nothing. Why? Why? It's the same thought. It's the same joke. I just said the instead of the. And there's zero laugh. These are the rules of comedy. Nobody knows why, but it's a very exacting thing.
You know, if you're a drummer and you go for a big drum fill, building to an exciting part of the song, you can play all the craziest stuff, 16th notes, just ripping around the drums. But if you don't hit the downbeat right on at the end of it, if you don't crash and it's like right on, the whole thing doesn't count. It loses all the energy and it's just gone in an instant. It's a very similar experience. If you're telling a joke and you flub just a little bit, the whole thing could disappear right before your eyes, you know, just fall right through your hands like sand. It's fragile. And that is, I think, what makes it so interesting.